Hi, good day to Mr. Teo Chua Chin and everyone to watching these presentations. My name is Zafri and I'm today proud to present my individual case study assignment for the course TMI 3231 Malware and Instruction Detection under Security Technology. So in these presentations, we will deep dive into the modern mechanics of social engineering and technical malware tactics that dominate the threat landscape today. We will dissect a real-world scam scenario, examine the hacker's technical blueprint, evaluate current defense mechanisms, and finally look at a proactive architecture that I have designed to stop this malicious activity before they drain a user's life saving. Let's get started, and to all my peers watching, don't forget the official tags for our campus and hashtag MMU Melaka. So let's move on to these slides. Let's begin with part 1 of our analysis, the problem statement. As we move into early 2026, the statistic released by the Royal Malaysian Police PDRM and the Commercial Crime Investigation Department CCID painted an alarming picture. Online financial scams in Malaysia are not just increasing, so they are accelerating exponentially. So look closely at the comparison on the screen. On one hand, we have a genuine automated text sent from a local bank, and on the other hand, we have an identical text string under the exact same sender thread by a hacker. So the primary weapon is used here is not just a clever line of code, it is pure psychological warfare by engineering a state of intense fear and immediate urgency. So the hacker completely shatters the victim's rational psychological barriers. So on the mechanically, the hacker exploits underlying vulnerabilities in the telecommunications routing networks through an SMS getaway service to manipulate the sender ID. So because the message drops directly into a legitimate historical text thread of the victim's bank. So it becomes virtually impossible for an ordinary everyday user to separate reality from a spoof executions. So the next slide is, to defeat an adversary, we must learn to think like one. So if I were the hacker orchestrating these operations, my plan would follow a highly disciplined 4-phase strategy. So the phase 1 is recognize and set up. I don't just send a message randomly. I set up my SMS getaway infrastructure to spoof the target bank sender ID. Simultaneously, I register a virtual telephone number using voice over IP platforms that mimics a legitimate trusted corporate landline area code, such as a Kuala Lumpur 03 number in front, creating a ready-to-use fake call center. Phase 2 is delivery, or what we call the hook. I deploy a targeted mass SMS broadcast. The text falsely alerts the victim that a massive transaction, specifically like 1,360 ringgit via Google Pay, has occurred on their card. This specific financial amount is high enough to trigger instant panic, but realistic enough to prevent immediate suspicions. So in order to them to call the fake hotline immediately if they didn't authorize it. So phase 3 is the trap. When the terrified victim dials my VoIP number, my conspirator answer using professional calm and scripted corporate banking ethic, pretending to be the official fraud department. We validate their fears, build immediate rapport, and promise to help them to cancel the transactions. So next is phase 4, exfiltrations, which is under the guise of identity verifications. I ask the victim for their online banking credentials. So as they give them me over the phone, I input them into the real banking platform online in real time. When the real bank fires legitimate one-time password, or we call OTP, to the victim's phone to authorize a money transfer, I trick the victim into a reading out loud to drain their confirm the cancellations. Once they read those 6 digits, I have full clearance to drain their accounts into a pre-arranged network of anonymous mule accounts. So now let's look at the perspective of a cybersecurity specialist. So technical code alone cannot fully secure an environment if the human factor remains fundamentally broken. Therefore, I recommend 3 core defensive pillars to protect the general public. First, we must aggressively promote the stop, breathe, check rule, which is social engineering relies heavily on cognitive overload and force speed. Simply taking a mandatory 5-minute pause break, the psychological scam trends and relies the artificial mental strain and manufactured by the hacker. Second, the public must adopt a strict zero trust policy for SMS content. People need to realize that the sender thread header means absolutely nothing. You must never click integrated link or call a phone number drop into a text message. If an alert sounds urgent, verify with independently by calling the number stamped on the back of your physical card, debit or credit card, or navigate directly to the verified URL on the Google. Never search the hotline on Google as hackers frequently deploy malicious ad campaign to spoof search results. Third, we must completely phase out SMS based on OTPs, one-time passwords. So SMS text inherently clear text and easily intercepted or read aloud by an compromised user. So financial institutions must migrate entirely to secure device-bound application tokens such as Secure to You by Maybank, which require explicit biometric validations or a secure hardware called PIN to execute the transactions. So moving on into part 2 of our study, let's talk about building a proactive defense solution. So I have designed and implemented a specialized prototype tool called Phishing and Malware Analyzer. So this tool operates as an offline rule-based intelligence engine designed to intercept incoming text bodies or emails or parse them thoroughly before they can influence a human user. So why a rule-based approach? Because it guarantees complete explain and absolute transparency. For every single flag raised by this script, there is a clear human readable rationalable. So I paste on my coding here of my prototype. And on the next slide, I will show you what's going on. What's the real the real output. So let's take a closer look on mathematical logic powering this engine. So the analyzer evaluates text strings across 9 specific categories. of phishing indicators, assigning customized weight on cumulative scale of 100 points based on severity. So this is a conditional request, urgency fear threats, and suspicious link, and money bait. So the weight is going to show you 25, 15, 15, and so on. So by compiling these mathematical vectors, the analyzer established a precise risk scores out of 100. A score below to 20 triggers a safe verdict. A score between 20 to 44 is categorized as suspicious, and any score hitting 45 or higher receive a definitive malicious or classifications. So let's move on sample classifications report. So this is the sample phishing generic. There's a timestamp verdict, which is malicious because risk score is over 45, which is 84 over 100. So it's gonna be match everything: urgency, language, request, contains link, generic, threatened, account closure, unusual punctuations. So recommended actions: do not click any link or reply or share OTP, PIN, CCV. So can block the sender and report to your bank. So to validate the operational efficiency of these tools, when we run a classic phishing text string through the system, the engine triggers 6 out of 9 core indicators, generating an overall risk score 84 out of 100. So is going to be the verdict remains safely classified as safe if the score is just below than 44. So the bottom below here is the risk score is 6 out of 100, so it's under classified as safe. This proves that the prototype is not merely throwing blanket alerts everywhere. It encounters it cleanly and accurately differentiates between actual social engineering signature and the benign daily messages. Okay, now let's address this critical system architecture of our banking applications. The current security baselines heavily relies on a feature known as kill switch. However, there is a massive fatal flaw abandoned on this design. So it is strictly reactive, or in current application framework, when a transaction occurs, the system simply drops a standard approve or reject prompt onto the screen. The entire burden of the detection is offloaded onto the human victim. But as we established, the victim is trapped inside a high stress and panic. By the time user clears their mind, realize they have been defrauded, and manually triggers the kill switch, the transaction is already finalized and the money is gone. The recovery rate at the point effectively 0%. So the reactive kill switch does not stop initial theft, it only prevents subsequent follow-up damage. So we must fix this gap. So next is a proactive risk engine. To address this flaw, I propose a structural modifications integrating an automated real-time risk engine directly between initial transaction request and the user approval screen. Instead of blindly serving an approval prompt, the transaction passes through the 3 automatic analytic filters. First, payee identity checks. So the engine queries whether the recipient account is a long-standing trusted beneficiary or completely new account that user has never interacted with before. Most scam setup involve routing funds instantly to an unfamiliar newly introduced target account. So next is transaction amount analysis, which is high value anomalies. The system check for sudden volume anomalies. If a user who typically transfer amounts under 500 suddenly attempts another transfer of 5,000 ringgit. A high value risk indicator is flagged. Next is time detections. So scammer love rushing victims late at night during early morning hours when cognitive awareness is lowest. So the transaction executed during these highly irregular hours are heavily weighted. If the engine flags anomaly, it deploys a 3-tier response system: low risk actions move cleanly to normal approval, medium risk move require immediate setup, authentications like an extra biometric password or just a specialized secure PIN code re-entry. And crucially, for high risk actions, the engine triggers an auto hold, completely disabling the approve button entirely and locking the transfer until external secure validations occur. This is what a true proactive kill switch looks like. So to wrap up our analysis, I want to present 3 creative macro level recommendations for our commercial banking institutions and government regulators. First, let's implement smart cooling off periods. Any transaction flagged as high risk transfer to a brand new payee should experience a mandatory 12 to 24 hour settlement delay. This gives the victim crucial time to clear their head, talk to family or call a bank, realize it's a scam and safely terminate the hold. Second, we need in call detections. If a user opens their banking app while actively participating in an ongoing cellular phone call, the application should recognize this state, automatically lock the approve button. So and pop up a warning asking, are you currently being instructed to move funds by someone on the phone? Third, we must enforce real-time mule account integrations. Banking application gateway should link directly live government and police databases such as PDRM, SEMAP Mule framework. The moment user types destinations account that matches an active investigate record, the transaction should be blocked instantly. I think that's all for this assignment. I would like to thank you to everyone who watching this, and thank you very much for your time and attention. I look out the valuable feedback and assessments. Thank you.